This is John Lamacchia from Candiria, and you're listening to The New Scene.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The New Scene. I am your host, Keith, and we're back with yet another brand new episode. And on the show this week, we have Julie Christmas. She just put out the excellent new LP, Ridiculous and Full of Blood. That just came out this past Friday, June 14th. Hopefully you've heard it by now, but if you have not, highly, highly recommended. We talk all about that record. We talk about her first solo record. We talk about her previous work and Made Out of Babies, and her amazing collaboration record with Cult of Luna, and a bunch of other stuff. Julie is a real talent, and I'm very happy to have her on the show. You're going to love this conversation, so let's get to it. But before we get to that, a reminder. The New Scene is on the push to 300 Apple Podcast and Spotify reviews. Look, I need your help to get there. We're at 262 on Spotify and 218 on Apple. I need you. I need you to open your Spotify app or your podcast app on your iPhone and hit that 5-star button. We got to close the gap. We got to finish it up. You're going to have to hear me say this every single week for months and months, and nobody wants that. Or maybe you do. I don't know. But everyone who has submitted a review, thank you so much. We've got some new reviews. I'll read those at the end of the show. We've got a bunch of new stuff for the New Scene Community Hour. Keep those reviews coming. We got to get to 300. Also, don't forget to support Iodine Recordings. So listen up. Iodine has opened their vault for the first time ever, and they're offering a selection of test pressings with custom hand-numbered and gold foil embossed jackets. They've also got some of their most rare vinyl variants up as well. The vault is only going to be open for a week, so make sure you get over there and buy something. I was taking a look at what was there, and there's some really good stuff. Jerome's Dream presents test pressing. Come on. I mean, what are we doing? The debut LP from Love Letter is up for pre-order. The record is called Everyone Wants Something Beautiful. And you know what? Everyone wants to hear this record. Love Letter features founding members of Verse and Defeater. They've got 2 singles out there now. I love everything I've heard so far. I can't wait to hear the rest of the record. It ships June 28th, so order it now. The new LP from Her Head's on Fire is coming soon. It's called Strange Desires. That's out July 19th. Make sure you pre-order that. And the second leg of the Hot Water Music and Quicksand Tour is underway right now. And they have support from Tim Barry. That's a great, great lineup. Go check it out. If they're playing near you, there's a full list of dates up on the Iodine Instagram. You can follow Iodine at Iodine Recordings. And don't forget to support our sponsor for the month of June. That sponsor is Persistent Vision Records. They are an independent record label based in Richmond, Virginia, and home to a ton of bands with a ton of releases that we love. Page 99, Abak, Massa Nera, Respire, Prisoner, and more. Don't forget, we've got some new releases out in June and available for order right now. Abak, the Insania LP, Respire, Denouement, plus the Memorial 2X LP set. Denouement is a classic record. Memorial is an instrumental accompaniment to that record. Get it, trust me. And Farn, the Departure of Consciousness LP. That's a 10-year anniversary reissue. Persistent Vision would like to welcome Rain to the label. Pre-orders are up for 2 vinyl LP releases from Italian screamo legends Rain. There's a 20th anniversary reissue of their iconic Il n'y a pas d'orchestre LP, and a new collection LP of non-album material spanning 2004 to 2015. It includes their splits and an EP. Both releases were remastered by Will Killingsworth, and they've got deluxe packaging and colored vinyl variants. And don't forget, pre-orders are up for Blind Girls and Exit Exists. That's the new LP by Australia's Blind Girls. 12 new songs of chaotic, mathy, screamo-inspired hardcore. They've got a US tour in July, including East Coast dates with Heavenly Blue and an appearance at New Friends Fest. And make sure you go to Dark Days, Bright Nights. That's September 13th through 15th in Richmond, Virginia. That's a fest curated by Persistent Vision and Mike Taylor of Page 99. Everyone is on this. Page 99, Soul Glow, Thou, Portrayal of Guilt, Young Widows, Pygmy Lush, No Man, Abak, and the reunion of The Red Scare. Tickets are on sale now at thebroadberry.com. All the releases I just mentioned you can order online at persistentvisionrecords.com and deathwishinc.com. And don't forget to follow Persistent Vision on Instagram at Persistent Vision Records. Okay, so make sure you check back in with me in segment 3. There's a lot going on. My band, Memory Entry, has announced our first show. I'll tell you about the band. I'll tell you about the show. I'll tell you about what's going on. I saw Seosin last week. We've got some new reviews. We've got some new Spotify Q&A. We've got it all. There's a lot to talk about. But right now, we are going to speak to Julie Christmas. Enjoy. All right. We are here now with Julie Christmas. Julie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Hey, everybody.
Julie, it's great to have you here. You have a lot going on. I mean, you've been doing a lot your entire life. We've got Made Out of Babies. We've got Battle of Mice, Spilocopia, your solo records. You've got an excellent new solo record coming out very soon called Ridiculous and Full of Blood. I'm excited for everybody to hear it, and I'm excited to talk to you about all of this stuff. But first, Julie, I want to ask you.
What is that?
How are you doing?
I'm so good.
Today.
I'm so good. I just came from practice, so I think my voice is probably a little deeper, but I'm good. How are you doing, Keith?
You live in Brooklyn, correct?
Yeah, where are you?
Williamsburg.
Oh, that's not that far. I don't know why I thought you were somewhere else.
No, I'm here.
Okay.
Where do you practice?
Greenpoint. Yeah.
Was Chris there?
No, Chris is on his honeymoon.
Oh, that's right. He's in Italy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was with Tom Tierney, who plays keys, and he's like a sound wizard. And he has a recording studio, Spaceman. And so he was we play there. So it was me and John and Andrew. No Chris, but Andrew has made all these backing tracks that we could play with while he was fucking around in it. Oh, am I allowed to curse? He was like fucking around in Italy. He was like messing around in Italy. So we were playing to Chris, not Chris. It was like if Chris was there, but really small, you know?
I like that. I want to figure out how to do that for when my drummer is not around.
Yeah, it's very helpful to have like one of the best sound engineers around in your band. Andrew Schneider is like there aren't that many, luckier coincidences.
And John Lamacchia in your band as well, right?
Yeah, he's from Candiria, old friend of mine. He's my Brooklyn brother, and Johannes Persson from Cult of Luna is playing with us, and that's us.
I love it. Yeah, John has been on the show too, and Chris.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Did you talk to them both for an hour and a half?
Individually, yes.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. No, I'm just kidding.
You know what?
I'm just kidding.
We're going to get through it. We're going to get through it. We're going to talk about it together. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm just kidding.
So where exactly in Brooklyn are you from? Now, I don't mean like your address. We don't want to give that to people, but like where?
I'm south of Prospect Park.
Okay.
I'm close to. I could go and walk there right now.
Ah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you were born on Christmas Day. Is this true?
It is. It is true.
So in terms of being a kid, is that good or bad as far as birthdays go?
Well, my mom went into labor for Christmas Eve and decided to not have me until Christmas. So she sat in a warm bathtub drinking tequila to delay labor. And then I would say that was the foreshadowing for the whole thing. No, I would say like in my family, I come from like a pretty big, what kind of wild, um, like Irish American family. And my dad has 7 brothers and sisters. My mom's got 8, and there was always wild parties. But on Christmas, it was really unusual because my grandmother had the same birthday, so we would all be together, and it would be the two of us were the birthday girls, and it was Christmas. Um, but I would say, like, when you come from like a really big family, or if, for us, Christmas wasn't ever really that big a deal. Like, not tons of presents, or it wasn't like that big. It was mostly about hanging out a little bit, and um, I do love Christmas trees, but the presents part of it was not that big a deal because it wasn't. Nobody had that much money, and there were a lot of us, and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So lots of singing and drinking, in every part of it.
Right. Irish family. I've got a big, crazy Irish family too.
Yeah. See, you know all about it. Sorry.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
so sorry.
It's all right. I'm working through that too. So let's talk about your relationship with music. I've read, well, but actually, before I get to the singing, I mean, have you always been interested in it your entire life, like even just listening to it?
I always sang, always. I can't remember a time I didn't. Mostly at these big parties, I would, everybody would be singing. And, but I definitely was a big talker. I make a lot of noise, and I come from like a kind of a musical family. So yes, that was always my thing. I always sang, and I was definitely always attracted to voices.
Yeah, so you would perform at these family parties, and were people into it? Did you love it?
I don't know if it was more like groups. It wasn't really like there wasn't like too much soloing.
Yeah.
But I don't know because everybody, it would be like in like a big cloud of whiskey. So who knows? Who knows how much of it was any good? Um, but yeah, I always sang, and I know that they say that if you start singing at a very early age, you naturally do it correctly. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know if that's true about what I do, but I did start singing really early, and then just always did it. I always did it.
How about as far as music you listen to? You strike me as someone who has a pretty wide variety of tastes and didn't necessarily get locked into one thing. Is that true?
Oh my God, yes. I don't remember. I don't remember a time when I didn't listen to a ton of different music. I really had to find music that was heavy. It was not part of my, upbringing. So I remember really early I would listen to like, Mozart over and over at night, like all night long. And that was on a cassette tape, and I was really young. And then I would then I started to, I grew up in a house where, like, I didn't hear the Beatles. There wasn't any like I grew up in a house where it was like opera, and also like soul, like old soul and old country. And then I started to like and jazz, but more like instrumental jazz. And then when I grew up a little bit, I started to find the singers in those groups, like Aretha Franklin and Louis Armstrong, and sort of like the jazz greats. I found them, and then I started to hear. I'm growing up through this whole thing, so I'm like switching around a little bit, but I didn't really know anybody else who listened to the music I was like kind of trying to find. And so all of those people had a deep impact on me. BB King, and I remember listening to this stuff nonstop.
What inspired you to start seeking out heavier music?
I think inner turmoil. I don't know. I grew up, and also, I sound a certain way. I don't think I would be very good if I tried to sing an Aretha Franklin song. I wouldn't. I might not be good at that. I would try, but there's no touching that. So I you sound a certain way, but I think also if we're the sum of our experiences and that makes us who we are, then um, I was seeking out other music where, you know, women were making different kinds of sounds and a little bit more rough and sort of like encompassed like in their vocals, like, you know, extremes, like extreme joy or, you know, rage or, you know, whatever it was. But people with really strong voices, I was attracted to, you know, immediately. And then I think I like to say this, it comes up in interviews. And I always say that like the first time I went to see Unsane, and that was one of the first bands I ever toured with. But the first time I went to see them play, I was like 16 and they were playing, the first record of theirs that I heard was Occupational Hazard. But when I heard them, I like felt like I was like coming home or something like that. Like I had found it, you know? And then I kind of like moved into that a little bit.
How did you find them? Like, how did you find that whole scene?
God, I don't even remember. I think I was like just because there wasn't like podcasts or playlists or anything like that. So, and no one I knew, even though I was like I went to LaGuardia here in the city, which is like a music for, it's a school where you study arts, right? The arts. And so I was a vocal major. So everybody I knew and played with was really great and had their own separate influences, but I don't think I knew anybody who was like going really heavy like that. Um, Maybe a couple of girlfriends I had would dabble a little bit. Like I remember listening to Babes in Toyland, who I loved, and that was like the sort of more mainstream stuff that you could get your hands on. But the more buried stuff was a little bit harder to find. You know, I did find it pretty early on. We're talking about like, you know, 16, 17, that kind of stuff. But you know, I don't know how I first heard Unsane. I'm not exactly sure. I don't remember.
I was also 16 when I found all of the really extreme stuff, and I love it to this day. In addition to a bunch of other stuff, but so I was reading about you, and when you were looking for people to perform with, I read that you got rejected a lot, trying to find the right people. So you started to keep a journal of rejection. Is that true?
It is. I sort of started to write it down. I was writing a lot. I've always been like a lot, not always. Now I barely get to read, but I was always attracted to words and writers who were great and, you know, interested in trying to write, you know, a book. And I did try at one point. And then, so I would just write down a lot of different stuff. And I just started doing this. Like I almost thought it was like fun because I wasn't trying to really try out for that band. I was just trying to like hold a microphone and get some practice, you know, like that. And so I would go into these situations where you're trying out with a band. And I, you know, thinking about that, I did end up playing with some people who are pretty great, you know, and I stayed with a couple of them, but most of it was like an accident. I would just go in to do it. So I was like studying music during the day, and like I would go to Lincoln Center and like stand in the back and watch opera, and then I also on the weekends was playing with you know, friends who's even though you live in New York City, there's no basement where you keep your stuff like in the suburbs. But one of my friends had a storage. I'm sorry, I've been screaming for so
That's okay.
my voice is a little bit. But I had a friend who had a basement where they were supposed to have storage, but we would all go down there on like the weekends and drink and like basically just jam for, you know, a couple of days and stuff like that.
So this is all happening when you're in high school?
Yeah, all of it.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing though, because you're like you had the foresight at that age to just go try out with these bands, like even to just hold a microphone for a little bit and get a feel for it, and you're going to watch opera. It's like you're observing this thing and planning and getting whatever practice you can already, right?
Yeah, you know, when you you know, sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit. You know, I think a lot of us have done this. You think you're like fucking up, or people think you're fucking up by like kind of moving around and watching things when you're younger. There's so much attention to, drive and focus, and you got to like post every day and all of that. And but when you look back, there is, I'm sure other people have something similar where there was some consistency, but it was different. It was like you did what you could because you're younger, like that kind of stuff, or got into what you could because there were limits, and you had to kind of work with those too, so.
Yeah, back then there's like it's not like we have laptops and microphones and interfaces that are so easy to set up at home, and there's not like social media and everything to the extent there is now. So you have to like go out and find actual people with the equipment and play with them, right?
Yeah. Luckily I was here. So there were thousands and thousands of bands that wanted to reject me, and I could just go into practice spaces and do my thing. You know what I have thought about all of that is that there is a talent, there's a skill that comes up from doing that I think that kind of like served me in terms of, being creative last minute. Some of the records I have made, I was like writing the lyrics on paper plates before I went in front of the microphone because I did not have them yet. And I think it's from this time where I would go into places and have to do something off the top of my head all the time. I think that was like sharpened then or something like that.
Pretty cool that you just went out and did all of this stuff when you were so young too, because when I discovered hardcore and extreme music and all that at 16, I really wanted to be in a band, but I didn't play any instruments at the time. So I was like, oh, I'll sing for a band. But it was like this deep, dark secret. I was like ashamed to admit to anyone that I wanted to do it. So I was too afraid to even talk about it or try to do anything. But you're just out there doing it and getting the experience already.
Yeah, I guess I was doing that. I didn't have any choice though, because it was like something was going to happen. I did not have like a very calm upbringing. There had to be something. There wasn't, I would have done something worse if I didn't do that. Do you know what I mean?
Ah, yeah. See, I did the worse for for a really long time. I did that, and then I got my act together, and then I tried other stuff. So yeah, good for you.
What was the worst?
Just like drinking and getting high for a really, really long time.
Oh my God, I did that too. Yeah. It was all part of it.
Yeah, right. And sometimes I was in a band, sometimes I wasn't. Sometimes I was too much of a mess, but it's all part of the journey, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's part of the journey.
So I guess you went to a lot of gigs in and around New York City, huh?
Not that many. I was not able to. I lived in Brooklyn, and everything was really in Manhattan. And like I said, my friends, even in high school, weren't listening to stuff that was that heavy. So I didn't know about a lot of things that were that I could kind of like New York hardcore. I was, I didn't have like a group of friends who were in New York hardcore like Chris, like I didn't grow up in that. I think in some ways he's from Long Island. In some ways, that might have been an easier thing to be a part of. But New York City is so huge, and I also liked other things. So while I was doing this, there was also, I listened to a ton of rap and hip hop and, like all of that stuff. And that was a little bit easier to find because I had more friends who, we would go and, we would go to Bob and dance a while and stuff like that. And
interesting. Yeah. So you have several different backgrounds.
Yes, at least 7 different backgrounds that I know of. And then there's probably like 3 or 4 that I'm not aware of, but that's okay. Just as long as I keep the rejection diary going, it's okay.
Do you still have the journal of rejection? Do you still add to it?
I don't still add to it. It was like an exercise. I decided to do it. I don't know if I was going for I'm pretty sure I still have it somewhere. I don't keep a lot of stuff, but that was like there was something about that was like fun and funny to me, so I think I probably kept it. I kept this book I tried to write. I have that too, and so I kept some stuff.
Yeah. What was the book about?
I was reading Neuromancer. Do you know that? It's not
No.
it's not is it Philip Dick? I think I don't it was like I think it's Philip Dick, right? Let me see. Yeah, Neuromancer. I was reading this book, Neuromancer, and I started to like just come up with a story. The story itself, Philip Dick is like futuristic, and no, I don't think it was Philip Dick. Hold on. I'm going to look it up because I don't want to get this wrong, because somebody who is listening, if anyone is listening, this is like a big deal to them. Philip Dick wrote Blade Runner, but
Right.
but I don't think it's him. Hold on. It's Neuromancer was the book. William Gibson. Sorry, everyone. I was reading a William Gibson book, and it just was, the writing. When I was a kid, we didn't have television until I was like 13. I was on purpose, and so I tried to read every book in the Brooklyn Public Library, the Central Library. If you are in Brooklyn, that's like a huge library, and the children's section is massive. And when I would go in there were shelves and shelves of different colored books, yellow books, and next were the green books, but all of these books were full of the original writing of like the Brothers Grimm and like Hans Christian Andersen, not like the cleaned up, nice stuff that is like available for kids now, but like the cautionary tales where it's like someone is always dying, and
Oh, yeah, it was like the real vicious one where Hansel and Gretel pushed the woman in the oven and she roasts to death and all that, right?
At least. Yeah, there was definitely some stuff going on. So I read all of those, and then I remember reading this William Gibson book, and there was something about the colorful way that he describes like the street lamps and these pods that people live in. And I don't know. I don't know what it was about it, but I was in like a little phase, and I just thought I'd try it. Cause I always wrote, I always wrote some stuff. I never thought I was very good at it, but I did it, as a thing. So, and I've always loved really great writers, always. So, yeah, I just gave it a shot. And I remember like my technique was this, like, it's very, very, very academic. Here it was. So I would write part of the story, and then if I didn't know what else to write, I would write like 2 pages of violence, and then I would keep going. That was my whole plan.
It's not a bad plan.
No, it's not a bad plan. It could have been worse.
So we know you ended up in Made Out of Babies.
Yes, I did.
And how did you join that band?
I was traveling around looking for people to play with, and then just like so many of us, I realized that the people that you should be playing with are really actually close to home. So I remember like looking around for all of these people, but they were in my circle or next to my circle. I dated one of them, and then it was just like it was all people I kind of knew, and we just tried it out. But it made sense because you have to spend a lot of time with people you're in a band with, and so it makes a lot of sense if they are people who are have the same kind of like jokes as you. Yeah. And so that was how I found that band. I traveled around looking for everybody, and then I realized that these people were like in New York the whole time, like that. So I just came home, and then I started working with Brendan Tobin and Matt Egan and Cooper.
So we get everyone together, we start playing. Now I read you sent your demo to Neurot Recordings. That's Neurosis's record label, right? Did they sign you off that demo?
They did. They called us up. We were playing shows, and they called us up, and Brendan answered the phone, and we were driving, and they said, I didn't hear the first message, but Brendan hung up because he thought it was a joke. And and it wasn't a joke. So yeah, we got signed by them. They're the reason. They're probably the reason we're talking now. So I do credit Neurosis and Steve for that.
Yeah, you've had a long history with them and that label, right?
No, it was just
No?
no, it was just like
I mean like from then till now.
no. I only released the first 2 records with them, and the second of those 2 records was made with Steve Albini. So that was like an interesting thing that started to come up since he's passed.
How long had Made Out of Babies been together before you got signed?
Not very long, like less than a year.
Mm. And what's your life like at that time? Like, do you want to just do music full time? Were you going to college? Like, what was going on?
God, I don't remember. I think I was just trying to cobble together, and I was just like everybody else who's kind of younger but doesn't go like right to college and know exactly what they want to do. I was like feeling my way through things. So I always worked because I don't come from like money or anything like that. So I worked, and I worked my way through school. I think the reason that we sent that first demo out was and the reason like it got kind of like at the time I was working for a PR firm, and that sounds, I got like, I wasn't really doing that much. Well, whatever. I learned how to send out 100 of the same thing and how to make it look good and how to then follow up with it all. So I learned like a business skill there that you kind of had to have at the time. And
Right.
and so we sent out, I remember like sitting there and like putting these things together, the coolest envelope I could find, and Brendan and Matt, they're like super talented in terms of art and photography. So they kind of came up with something like simple, but look kind of cool. And we sent those out. We sent out like hundreds of them, and they answered.
Wow, so working at the PR firm, that's good. So you probably see like what works and what doesn't, and then you can use that information.
Yeah, I mean that stuff has totally changed now, but yeah, at the
Right.
time I knew that like, all right, well, you want to get some attention for something you made artistically, and you know that there's billions of competitors, then you have to, cast a wide net and do your homework and make it look good, and then, kind of go after it and mean it like that. And but they were also, doing their part, which means like they were actually listening to everything people sent them. I don't know if it was everything, but they were paying attention to the stuff that was coming through. That's because they were, as people at least, like, receptive artistically and wanting to further, and work with, younger people who are coming up, which is very cool.
All right, so the debut Trophy comes out in 2005, yes?
Trophy comes out, let me look it up. Hold on. Did you look it up? Yes, it came out in 2005. Of course, I knew that.
We knew that. We knew that.
I don't pay attention to stuff like, I don't pay attention to details like other people do. I don't know. I heard one of those songs from, I think, that record, and like I heard it in a podcast like feed, and I was like, this sounds familiar, but I didn't recognize right away that it was me singing. Isn't that weird?
So Trophy comes out. What did you start touring a lot nationally? Like, what was the band like at that time?
We were trying to give it a shot. We knew the record was coming out, and so we were trying to like do what everybody else does when they're younger, or if you're doing something for the first time, you just try to do as much as you can. And we all were working people, like we all had to pay the rent and figure that stuff out, or where to live when you weren't touring and all of that stuff. But yeah, we did do some touring in those early years for sure. And I'll tell you what, it was, it's the reason I'm kind of baffled by, like kind of seeing so many people in the audience now, because that first year of playing shows when nobody knows who you are or gives a shit is like, you're like playing for like 3 people and you're doing the best job you can, and so grateful for the 3 people. And I still like, if that happened again, it would be terrible and great at the same time, because I would remember all of that. You really do in music, you really do pay your dues when you're coming up. So I'm always like, even if it's people whose music I don't particularly care for, I give people a lot of credit when they're able to like sustain a life in this, because it's hard work.
Oh, big time. Yeah, like when I was younger, I don't know, I talked a lot of shit, and I would just like, if I liked it, it was good, and if I didn't, it sucked, and whatever. I was just kind of negative about a lot of stuff, but I have the utmost respect for anybody doing it, like you're saying, because yeah, like to be out there, and especially if you have to work to make ends meet, like you did, like I did, like a lot of people do. I'm happy for anyone that's ever come to watch me. The last band I was in, we did a little bit of touring, and if there was like 3 people there, 5, 10, 15, whatever, I was just stoked,
I have a question. How do you feel about it when you find out that some of the, some people in the band that you thought was a really like heavy, down to earth, gritty band were actually millionaires? Like that happens a lot too, because you have to like stay in it, and just staying in it, if you don't have any money or financial resources, really tough, right? That's why a lot of people like, just go get a regular job.
Yeah. All right, here's my policy with millionaires.
Let me hear your millionaire policy.
If they act like millionaires, I don't like them. But if they like keep it a secret and I have to like find out about it through other means, okay. Because I've met rich people and I didn't know they were rich and they didn't act rich. And, and I was like, okay. But I've also encountered people who act really rich. Like they won't even look at you or talk to you if you make a certain amount below a certain amount a year, or I don't know. I really hate that.
I think that's a good policy. I think that's an okay policy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that.
What about you? What's like now you're saying you've been in a band and you find out someone's rich and you have to just like kind of deal with it. Is that what you're saying?
No, no, nobody in any band I was ever in is rich. Or at least
you're saying like you find out someone in a band is rich and it kind of changes your viewpoint.
Well, it's something to consider, right? Like you and it's kind of impossible not to notice that. I mean, we all have some advantages, right? Everybody's got some advantage. So it's not fair to single this out, but you do notice that, your favorite new actor, your favorite new, or like somebody who really lasted in there forever. And you find out that they've got like a bankroll and you're just like, oh, okay. I don't know. It's like, it's not as, it just wasn't as hard, at least not financially.
Yeah, I assume that a lot, which I shouldn't. But if someone has been pursuing the arts their entire life, I always wonder, are they rich? Are their parents rich? Because like, it's just like, how are they doing it so long? But some people just work.
Yeah.
They find a way to make it work through working.
That's me. That's what I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had to do the same thing. So, Coward, the follow-up to Trophy. Now, you recorded this with Steve Albini, as you mentioned earlier, yes?
Yes.
How was your experience with him?
I first want to say that I'm like so sorry that he passed, and I don't like post about things or say, anything, but he had such a huge impact on so many bands that came before me and that influenced me, and I met him and he was super cool. And I worked with him and Bob Weston, and I just worked with Bob Weston. He mastered this record that's coming up, and I have some like pretty amazing memories of that time working with them, and I didn't really know who he was before I went in there. Like, music, I think if you're, the average everyday person, you don't try to make music, you don't realize how many people it takes to make a record. it is the band and the band writes, right? And sometimes there are people in the band who are creative, and when you're younger, you do as much of it as you can. But man, you should see like pulling off any performance, or even when you're younger, is at least two more people than the band, right? And so whenever you make a record, there's this whole group of people that bring their own unbelievable talent to what you're doing to help you get it to the point where somebody else can like hear it. And he was a really lucky one to work with. I was not wowed by who he was or anything like that. The Cooper and Brendan and Made Out of Babies, they like had a shrine to him in their home, or I feel like. And it was Neurot's idea that we try Steve Albini, and everyone wanted to do it. I was not as invested in that decision, but when we finally got there, I remember, we worked at Electrical, and that space was a phenomenal space. It was like, I don't know, the live rooms really looked unbelievable. And he had a big thing about like great coffee, which was cool with me. And he had to take a day off to play a poker game, which was so fucking weird. But I was really happy about that because I hadn't slept in a long time. And then I remember one time when I was working with him, and we were alone in the area where he was kind of like, it was like this little room where he was working with the audio tape, the analog tape, and he had to edit out something that I'd made a mistake on, and I watched him from behind start ripping this tape off of the reels and just kind of like pulling, and all of this tape was flying through the air, and then he just stopped and put it together, and when he replayed it, it was like there wasn't anything edited out. It was a seamless edit, and I was like, couldn't believe that. It was like watching a wizard or something for me.
Wow.
That was really cool. Like getting to watch, the technical proficiency that anyone who's really good at their job. I mean, this can happen with like a carpenter, like somebody who's really great at their job, and you get to watch them for a minute do what they do. It's like, it's like something cool to be a part of. And he was like
That's
that.
Awesome.
Yeah, he was kind of awesome. And he could like take a joke, man. I mean, so many people who do great things in their lives are like really serious, and they can't, laugh at themselves. But I remember like he couldn't see me, and I was trying to understand, and I just was like, I remember one time being like, why don't you wheel your nerd cart over to the window, and then and then you could see me. And he was like laughing at that. He wasn't like, even though he'd made all these like incredible records, so he was funny. He was funny and smart.
Yeah. I always enjoyed him on Twitter. He would always have interesting things to say. A lot of things about poker too. So taking a day off to play the poker game too. That tracks.
Yeah. I was a little surprised when I heard it, but it wasn't that uncommon, I gather.
So Made Out of Babies breaks up in 2012 or around there, right?
We made one more record, The Ruiner, best record we did. And so that was that was our third record, and definitely the best one of the three.
So what happened? We have this, our best record, things are happening.
I don't know if things were happening. This is the part of life when you're starting to realize that, there has to be something we weren't getting like big enough to sustain that as a livelihood. And I myself like really am into a lot of different things. So I wasn't always sure. I knew that like being on the road, it was like it's not a healthy place for me. I misbehave, and I get into like trouble and drink too much, and so it's like wasn't the best thing. And so I tried to do other things with my life at this point, and we were starting to like kind of like have some fallouts and disagree. Nothing like that I remember as being really major, but then they decided to, just replace me with a different singer, and kind of told me that, and then that was that. That was the end.
Yeah, that's not great.
Yeah, that's shitty.
Yeah, yeah. Did you ever? Do you still talk to any of them? Like, was it ever okay after that, or
No,
no?
I don't. I mean, one of them was like, I had no idea, actually. I mean, one of them actually told me. One of them told me, and that's the only one I think has any. Yeah, at least he had the car. At least he was the one who had the conversation. But they'd already started with the other singer. They were cheating on me with another woman.
Can't believe it. These bands, there's always little factions and secrets, and it's always something.
Yeah, it's something. But.
Well, it's good that you have your solo career now, right? Because it's you, and you choose who you're working with, and you call the shots.
Well, no, I made The Bad Wife before. I made The Bad Wife before The Ruiner. I had tried. So I know, like, it's kind of seems like I was getting a little bit like tired of like shrieking my guts out every night, and also like the stuff that I'm attracted to as a listener and as a reader is varied, and there's so many things that go on that are amazing, right? It's not just about being angry or noticing things that you think are terrible. There's also like so much amazing stuff around. And I was reading Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and he was he was this journalist that risked everything to out cartels, right? And writing books about love. And I just was really impressed by that. That the and Yukio Mishima, who is like he wrote this book After the Banquet, and that book also he committed harikari, and he was writing books about this Japanese geisha who was, well, I'll let you read the story, but the writing was so incredible. And so it was like these really powerful figures who had who were very tough. And my dad is also like this, really, really tough, but definitely believes in love. And I remember, wanting to like explore more of that, not just the same old stuff and screaming, but sort of like things that are like a little softer, or not softer, but as important. And so I did the Bad Wife, which gave me a chance to do that.
Yes, and I love it, both this and the new record, which we're going to talk about. But there's just a lot of passion in it. It's not just one thing, like just heavy or just lighter. And I mean, your vocal range and everything that you're doing, and the context, the things that you're writing about, like the stuff you just described, is really interesting. So did you just want to explore new territory with the music you were writing?
At the time when we did The Bad Wife?
Yeah.
Yes, I did. I just wanted to explore new territory, or I wanted to bring I get bored easily, and I don't and so I wanted to, and I also like love so many different things. And so I was listening to a ton of Tom Waits and reading all of these people, and really always attracted to great writers and interesting characters wherever they were. And so I wanted to try to like, I just was, I don't know if I was trying something. I think more like it is that I was like being more myself on that one, is the truth. And yeah, I don't think I was trying something new. I think I was just showing a more parts of my life, just like everyone else. There's a lot going on.
So how do you get it together? John LaMacchia, you worked with him on The Bad Wife, right?
I did.
So what happens? Do you just get together and start writing, and does he bring stuff to the table? How does that work?
John was amazing. John is like a great friend. And, sometimes because I don't play instruments, I have to like sing, something, an idea into, to other people, and they will kind of go with it. And my number one partner in that is John, because I can say to him, and I can say something like, look at this passage. Do you see the way the writing is like going around in this kind of like shapely way, like the words? And I said, I think that would sound something like this. And I would sing it to him, and then he would just be able to play it. And then he'd be like, oh, and it'd be so cool if this happened after that, so it was, he's like an excellent collaborator like that, like really so talented in his own right that he's psyched about, a good idea or a terrible idea that he can make good, like that kind of thing. So yeah, we played like that, and he has, he's been like a really great partner in music all this time.
Wow, that it sounds like you have a good synergy. I like that you can just kind of sing a part or read something with him, and then this music comes out of it.
Yeah, I mean, if you meet John, that's how he is. Have you met him? Oh, you've met him. You talked to him.
I talked to him on the show, but I have not met him in person yet. But you know what? It's going to happen one of these days.
Yeah, man. He's like just lucky to know him. You're lucky to know him.
Do you remember your first solo show?
My first solo show wasn't a solo show. It was with John and Tom and Andrew. And we just had a different drummer. It's just like, this stuff is under my name, but it's not solo work. It's not, it really isn't. It's just that, I hadn't made anything like this new one, Ridiculous and Full of Blood. It's under my name because that's the easiest way to do it. If we started another band with a different name, there wasn't like enough time. It almost is just like almost a coincidence, but I would not have been able to make this record without Cult of Luna, the band, and Johannes and Hayden Britland, who is, a manager who kept pushing and pushing for this, and all of these guys that I've known for years and I'm still playing with. So it sounds like it's me, but it's not just me, it's them too.
So is it like scarier at all to perform as Julie Christmas versus, performing with Cult of Luna or Battle of Mice or Made Out of Babies? Is it tapping into something different or more personal?
Well, I think like with Cult of Luna, it was a little scarier because I didn't want to fuck it up for them. So it's like they took like a chance, to kind of like work with me and take some time out. And you're like, oh my God, what is this going to be like if this doesn't actually sound so great? Like what if I bomb out in front of all their fans or something like that? So that was a little bit scary, but it worked out. I work really well with them. I love those guys. They are also, incredible people to know and work with. And, and so I don't know if any of it is scarier. It's all scary. It's all kind of scary. These upcoming shows that we're going to play are we'll see how they go, but it's definitely going to be some of the biggest stages I've been on, and I'm just going to go out and do my fucking thing. And if nobody likes it, then it'll just be the same as when I first started, where you really have to be like, this is how it's going to be. And I hope you can come along for the ride, but I'm just going to put it out there.
I like that. Well, it's impossible that people won't like it. Now, I want to tell you, Julie, I want to tell everyone, I've heard an advance of your new record, Ridiculous and Full of Blood, because I am a big-time major player in the podcast world. And they give me advances of records, and I love it. Great. I love it. I think it's one of the best things I've heard this year, and I think people should be excited to hear it and to see you live. So I want to hear more about this record. First of all, where did you record it? I love the production on this thing.
The production... the recording happened in a bunch of different places. Like Acre Audio is Andrew Schneider's studio upstate. And and he is like some of the vocals were recorded in that bathroom, like a tiny bathroom, like just like the beginning. It's like back in, you want to find good acoustics, guess where? Bathroom. So that kind of stuff hasn't changed, but there were also some other things like we recorded at a a studio up there called Raw Recording, which is a beautiful studio upstate New York. And then some of it was recorded, that song 7 Days, that's the last song on the record, that was recorded at Spaceman where we practice. That's Tom Tierney's studio, and Chris also like uses that as a practice space. He practices there all the time. And then Silver Chord, which is Gojira's space in Bushwick. I think it's in Bushwick. It's some of the vocals and music was recorded there as well. So it was like a little bit of a mobile unit. It wasn't all recorded at the same time. And Johannes lives in Sweden. And so it took a little bit of time to make this record, and a little bit of like being flexible about where you do it. But Andrew Schneider is the thread that pulls that all together. 'Cause anywhere we worked, he was in charge. He produced the record.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Does he mix it or does someone else mix it?
Oh, he mixed it, and he is like very meticulous. But he mixed the record for sure.
Yes. This Andrew knows what he's doing.
Andrew knows what he's doing. Everybody knows.
Yes.
Yeah, everybody. He did like the newest Ken Mode record, which I think is unbelievable, and he's got some really exciting projects coming up in the next year. But yeah, he's got a long history in music, including Unsane.
Oh, right. Yeah. The latest Ken Mode sounded unbelievable. I've had Jesse from that band on the show too. They're great.
Yeah, they are great. I love them. They're really good.
Ridiculous and Full of Blood. You said it's a heart on sleeve, chapter by chapter storybook of the conflicting elements of your own character. I'm interested in that. Tell us about that.
What I was trying to say is that what I think I was trying to say is that we're all different from one moment to the next, and as life goes on, you start to realize that things are not black and white, but all the colors in between, and all the different shades, and so I think a lot of the themes that come up, and there's a lot of differences, but it's almost impossible for me to track. Like, there isn't one character or one theme that happens. It's like everything is in there. In like Silver Dollars, there's like, I'm trying to say with words a picture that's in my head, and the picture is like a room full of mirrors and like a giant silver fish like jumping out of the water. I like listen to the music that these guys make, and I might change it a little bit, but it's mostly theirs. And they one person usually starts out a record, one of the tracks, and we keep going through it. And what I try to do is like uncover what is there already. But I'm putting myself in there too. And so the end result is like really, I think, very honest, because I don't care if nobody likes the record. I'm happy when people love it, but it would sound the way it does whether other people liked it or didn't. And I think, so it's like honest about how humans are way more complicated than you imagine it's going to be when you're younger, and how life can be not really happy or really shitty like you see on social media, but everything in between, and how you can be happy and sad at the same time, and have horrible days right back to back with great days. And it's sort of like how life is much less simple than you think when you're younger, or imagine that life should be when you're younger.
That's interesting. I think about that a lot. Yeah, because, well, when I was younger, my only concern was like, I want to go out and get drunk, but I don't have any money. Or, I like this girl and she doesn't like me back. Or it was like pretty simple stuff. But when we're older, for me at least, there's some things that are easier. Like now I can afford stuff. I've had the same job for a while. That's good. If I need something breaks, I can like buy a new one. But in terms of mood and where I'm at and what I'm going through, that can change minute to minute. Like everything can be fine and I can be miserable and I can't pull myself out of it. Or I don't know. It's just like 1 minute everything's fine, the next minute it isn't. It gets very complicated, right?
Yeah, it does. It does. And you know what else I think is that I think that's really normal. I don't think
Yeah.
I think that what's not normal is that you're supposed to be happy all the time. That's not normal.
No.
it's like it's like then happiness is just your baseline. But that's what I think, I think it messes with younger kids because I hear this. I've heard this directly. It's just people act like their lives are so great on social media because you see one picture, but it's really not like that. It's really not like that at all. And I like the other. I prefer more honesty than that because that's bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? I want to start a real life Instagram.
Me too.
I'll be like, yeah, I'll be like, here's the trash I didn't take out today.
Yeah, this episode is called Folding Socks. And,
Yeah. This is me in bed staring at the ceiling for 30 minutes because I don't want to get back up and answer an email. It's like.
Yeah, but that's that stuff. But there would be other episodes that should be part of it too. Like, holy shit, look, that plant is growing in the weirdest place. That would be a good
Yeah.
one. There's a lot of that too. Like, wow, look at that gargoyle. Who built that thing? I don't know. It's like there's so much of that stuff too,
Yeah. Yeah. I have to remind myself all the time, it ebbs and flows. Like I'll have 2 really good months and then 1 bad month. And then I'm like, everything sucks and it's going to suck forever. And then the bad month passes and there's another good one. And I'm like, oh, right. Like there's good and bad days. I forgot.
The only thing you can count on is change, right?
That's good. I'm going to remember that. Are you in a good cycle right now or a bad cycle?
I'm in chaos. I'm in a chaotic place, like almost all the time.
Really?
Yeah, I have I have issues with calming the fuck down.
How does that chaos manifest itself? Are we talking anxiety or just running around places or disorganization? What are we talking?
Well, ridiculous and full. The record is like it's titled after this thing. It's like always trying to first like there has to be an element where you don't take things so seriously, but all of the blood in that image on the cover of the record represents like really, getting absolutely the most you can out of every day. And, somebody asked me like, there's this thing there's something called a deathbed meditation. I don't meditate. I probably should, but they were saying, well, there's this thing. It's funny you should say that, Julie, because there's this thing. It's called the deathbed meditation. And you imagine yourself on your deathbed and you examine your regrets. And what would your regret be? This was the question. And I was like, you know what? I don't think I would have too many regrets. I try not to do that. I would regret being a messy fucking drunk and hurting people. And like, sometimes, I'm like, sometimes I blow up, I have like a lot, like I have like, like more emotions than I know what to do with. But here would be my regret. It wouldn't be like any of that stuff. My regret would be that I think that actually just sitting still is very important. I remember I used to do it when I was a kid because I would get like locked out and I would lay down on the ground and just stare at the sky and imagine like all the stuff that kids imagine, like, oh, a bubble, like that kind of stuff. But I remember staring at that for hours, and I have spent a lot of time outside. And I think my regret would be as an adult that I just didn't do that. Like the amount of like trying to get things done and trying to make sure everyone else is okay and, paying attention to crisis in the world the way you should and being responsible and loving and fierce and all of those things. And that I think my regret would be that I didn't sit under the tree and, look at the world and just kind of sit there for a minute. Stillness.
I like that. You know what? I think that would be one of my only regrets right now, too. Now, if you asked me 10 years ago, I would have 3,000 regrets. But now I've done a lot in the last few years that I've always wanted to do, and I'm very happy about that. But sometimes I just run myself down because I'm always go, 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 work, 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 night till day, work. So yeah, just taking some time to sit or be outside or look at a body of water or something like that. I'm slowly trying to do more of that.
Yeah, I think that's it. Or it doesn't have to be. I don't know. It's some of it seems so ridiculous, right? The routine that everybody's always in, and so many parts of it that you don't like. It's like kind of like, what is it all for? I don't know.
Yeah. I I just went through a whole thing about that before. I was like, what am I doing any of this for? Why does it matter? Why?
Yeah. Why?
Well, if I
Yeah,
didn't,
why?
then I guess I would just go back to watching movies all day, and
That sounds
I don't
pretty
know that.
good. I want to do that.
I forgot.
I just watched Saltburn. Did you watch that?
No, what is that?
Oh, Saltburn is starring, I think his name is Barry Kagan, and he is I will say this, I liked it until the end.
Yeah.
A woman made it, which I was kind of surprised to see, and I think so. I think she's a badass. And then it's very like, there are very Shakespearean themes. Like I felt like parts were like Macbeth, but the acting is unbelievable, and the story itself is great. It's like a story about how the underdog becomes the oppressor, which I realize mixes metaphors, but but it's like that.
I'm looking at it now. This looks interesting. Yes. I'll have to check this out. But I realized it was a long weekend, so I have big plans. I'm going to rewatch Dune, the first one.
Guess what I'm going to rewatch? Jacob's Ladder.
Dune 2?
No.
Oh, I never saw that.
We were talking about it today. John thought it was really scary. Andrew thought it was really scary. I remember watching it and being like, yeah, I don't know. There's definitely scarier people in Midtown than that guy. Like, I don't know.
That's I think I've seen it. I forget though. But Dune and Dune 2, I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna have to set aside like 9 hours for that.
You have to set aside 9 hours, and you better get some pillows because you're gonna pass right out. I don't know about.
I did last time I watched it, and I will this time.
Yeah, that's right. You're gonna watch 9 hours of it, but you're gonna get 6 hours of sleep. So it's gonna work out either way. You can't.
Hey,
lose.
It sounds fun. You played Roadburn Festival last year, right?
Yes. It was great.
How was that?
It was awesome. I think Walter and Becky and their crew that put Roadburn together are just like very special people. To be able to get that invitation was huge, and I was very grateful and a little bit like starstruck when I was there, just being near those people, because the amount of work that it takes, I don't even know what it is, but the amount of work that it must take to put together something like that is gotta be intense. Like I know that they start the next day, or like even before that, before Roadburn is over, they're already planning the next one, right? Or planting seeds.
Oh, really?
Or whatever. I think so. It's like, the amount of planning that goes into these festivals is and theirs is unusual because they sort of take over this pocket of town, and the pocket of town, or like part of it is like flanked by like much smaller music venues and bars and clubs, and those all fill up with music too. So it's like it's a pretty special thing to be a part of, and I really can't. I would love to like take your daughter to work day and pretend to be their daughter. So I could see like, what do you have to do that? I have no idea what that job is like, but it's intense, and they don't, they do it in a way that is, I think, something to be copied. It's special. They take such amazing care of everyone, and they are so excited themselves about the music, genuinely. zero to do with like dollars and profit. I mean, I'm sure they have to consider that stuff as well, but it is a labor of passion and they do it right, you know.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of special care goes into that particular fest.
Yeah, for sure. We also did Damnation, and I will say, you know, Gavin and Callum, and I don't know everybody who puts that together, but I know there's like some key players there, and also like really lovely people who try to like, you know, put on something that's cool. Roadburn has like a vibe, like it takes over the town, you know. So it's a little bit different. I'm sure they're all different, but Hellfest will be the first festival we play where there's like 82 other bands playing at the same time, and like that kind of thing.
Battle of Mice. You were in this band, yes?
I was. Yes.
Yes. And we've got you. We have Josh from Neurosis and Red Sparrows and some other heavy hitters as well. Now, I read the band formed when you met Josh at South by Southwest, but that you hated each other immediately upon your first meeting. Was that true?
Yeah, that was true.
Why?
When you meet people for the first time at these things, it can be, I didn't like Andrew when I first met him either. It can be tense when you're performing or making music, or you may not be in the mood, like, or something could be happening that is not, that you have to like fight about, or, you know, lots of stuff can be happening where you don't get along with, you know, the 800th person you've seen that day, or the 700 leading up to the 800. Like, I don't know. It's not a, that world is like, it may seem, I don't know, making creative decisions is like, sometimes you have to, or like playing every day. Sometimes it's like, it's a strange thing to do, you know?
Right. Yeah. It's, I have to take into account, me personally, I have to take into account that there's always more going on than I realize. So I just, what I'm getting at is I don't like attitude, right? Like, I don't like anyone acting like they're a big shot or anyone giving me attitude. So if I meet somebody and they're like, meh, or whatever, or just, you know, fine. But me, I have to remember it's not about me necessarily. Like you said, I could be the 800th person they had to meet that day. They could be in a big fight with someone that I don't know about. Right? I just try to assume, hey, it's got nothing to do with me. Let me leave it alone.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah.
I also don't like people who give attitude. I myself can give attitude, but it's usually because I'm pissed about something. but I think, yeah, if you're like, playing music in front of people is so weird. You're like, there for 23 hours to play for 1 hour. Doing things for 23 other hours to play music on stage for an hour. You know, it is a strange thing to do, and you're not at home. So, and it's not quiet, and you don't have any shit with you, and you may not have any money, and you might be like pushed and, you know, crowded. And for some people that is awesome, but I don't think it's awesome for anybody all the time, because it's weird. You're like living in public or something.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that's a good point. You know, I was touring with a band last year, and for the first time we had like a green room, right? To share for us and the other bands, and I was like, wow, this is such a game changer. Like, I realize why people have this now. I can come back here and like run through the set on my bass, and that'll take some pressure off, or I can like sit here and just like stare at the ceiling. You know, like this is what I need.
Yeah. It's like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need that.
Yeah. You don't realize that you need those things. Well, I didn't, because, you know, I've never been in a band that had a green room before. So, you know.
Well, congratulations. I hope you have many more green rooms.
One day, Julie.
One day.
One day I'm going to get there.
One day, Keith. You got this.
So you meet Josh. We don't like each other. But then eventually we came back together and did like each other, and the band somehow got together, right? Battle of Mice?
Yeah, but this stuff is so long ago, I don't want to go into Battle of Mice. It's like exhausting to think about some of those interactions and making that record. Oh my God.
I was reading about some of the recording of that record, which I couldn't believe because it's such a unique situation, let's say. But you know what? I'm not going to go into it, and I'm going to shift gears right now to something else. How does that sound?
That sounds good.
Your collaboration with Cult of Luna for their album Mariner. We were talking a little bit about that earlier, but I've got to say, so good.
Oh.
So good. I was watching a live performance of that, and you were all just killing it. How much performing did you do with them for that album?
The first time we played together, we practiced together a tiny bit, and then we were on stage. There was no lead up to that. It was like
Really?
yeah, it was kind of crazy. The first time I was like meeting them and practicing with them was like practically we were on stage. It was like the next day. It was. I remember that being like one of the crazier things about it was we practiced together for days, like a couple, but like 2 days. And then the next time I saw them, we were playing shows. It was kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy to do that. Yeah, it's a little bit. Yeah, you can tell they're really comfortable with themselves.
Oh yeah,
and I guess I am
you too.
Yeah,
you too. I saw you in that video. Now, when we are all professionals like you are and like they are, you can do that because I've done that where everyone's remote and you just have to be ready and you show up and you just do it.
Yeah, but I think if we were all in different places and we showed up to try to do that, it might not work out so well. But they've been playing together for like 20 years, some of them, so I think it's they also as a unit are well-oiled machine kind of thing, or at least the level of play is high, so their mistakes may not be as noticeable,
Yeah. When you recorded that album, how does it work? Do they send you tracks and you're over here recording them? Did you go over there to work with them at all? How does that work?
Completely separate the entire time. And I don't think I hadn't even met them. Is that weird?
Really?
Yeah. That's crazy,
Really?
right?
Yeah.
I don't think I'd met them when we recorded a large portion of that record.
Wow.
I met them.
So how did the collaboration come to light? Did they just know about you, or how does that work?
I think we knew about each other. We tried to figure this out a couple times and we pieced together that I think Johannes thinks he wrote to me first. I think I wrote to him first, them first. And they just didn't get my message. And then they wrote to me and asked me if I would play Beyond the Redshift, which is like a festival they were curating, and I couldn't do it. And then we kept like in contact, or we kept talking to each other, and then the opportunity came up, like, do you want to try to work on something together? And I said, let's just try one song. And then but then we tried the song, and it turned out to be like the partnership I needed at the time. It was an amazing thing to be part of that with them. And I was pregnant.
Really?
I was 7 months pregnant when I recorded that record.
No.
Yes. How nuts is that? Nobody knows that. I don't think I've told anybody that before. Not because I haven't, but I think I was 7 months pregnant. I had to go and ask if it was okay.
Doctor said it was okay?
Yeah. She was like, there's nothing in there. There's nothing getting through that. Don't worry. She's like, you can scream as much as you want. Unless you're going to pass out, you're good.
Yeah, because I'm thinking about the famous story of the woman who recorded backup vocals for the Rolling Stones song, and then she miscarried. She was pregnant.
Oh, wow.
I forget which song. Yeah, I forget which song it is. It's hold on, I'm going to look it up. That Just a Shot Away song, Give Me Shelter. Yeah.
Wow.
Mary Clayton was the woman. She was pregnant, and they called her in to do backup vocals for that song, and she ended up miscarrying. But I don't know if it's like because of the vocals or what. But
I doubt it. It's like, or like, who knows? Like maybe she was like, you never know with that stuff. But I think you could fall down a flight of stairs and your baby's okay. Like it's like, it's not an easily interrupted process unless, by design, or if your body's like, this is not going right, let's do this over, like, I don't know.
Right.
So,
right.
yeah.
So how many kids do you have?
I have 2. I have a girl and a boy.
Oh, how old?
My son is 8 and my daughter's 11, and they are both coming to Hellfest.
That's so cool.
They were backstage at Roadburn. My son came out, and my son Lee came out and helped to. He's 8. He was 7 at the time. He came out and helped like push the equipment off the stage, and then waved to the audience, and they waved back. It was cool.
What a trip! They must love it, right?
I don't know. I don't know. I think they're just. The thing about kids is that they are just going through life. They have very little to compare it to.
Yeah.
And so if you are, if you're watching, one day you're watching TV and then it's like the adults in your life, or like you're watching TV about like somebody singing or giving a performance, and then the adults in your life are doing it, it may just seem normal, right? That's one of the reasons kids are great, because they can like hear you and comprehend real things, but also believe that a dog could have purple spots. Like that's my favorite thing about kids. They're not done yet.
Right. I'm thinking they're young, so they must still think it's cool because they're not quite to that age yet where it's like, oh, my parents, whatever they do isn't cool.
I'm sure that's going to happen, but I think I'm sure that's going to happen in some way, but it's a little harder to say your parents aren't cool when there are so many people in the audience.
Exactly. Exactly. If any of your kids ever say, Mom, not cool, just show them the Roadburn video and be like, look at all those people.
I'll just be like, listen, did Keith want to talk to you? I don't think so. So let's get back to this point when Keith wants to interview you about your day. Okay?
Yeah. Can you fill up an hour and a half on his show?
So. No, not unless you talk about Minecraft. And so nobody gives a shit, but go away. No, I'm just kidding.
Actually, I probably could talk about Minecraft for an hour and a half because I still game. Well, I don't play Minecraft, but I still do a fair amount of gaming. So,
I have a feeling my daughter is people are going to be hearing from her too. But she is she could talk for an hour and a half and she wouldn't even have to stop to breathe. Like it would just, you could power a small device on the amount of sound that comes out of that kid, Kids
are superheroes. And I wish I would have realized this when I was a kid because, I'm trying to get into shape. So I ran for the first time recently and not very far. And it took me 4 or 5 days to recover because my legs hurt and I threw up a little and everything hurt.
It was a whole thing. Run?
Not far.
No,
not far.
To throw up, how far did you run? I want to know.
Not even a mile.
You're kidding, Keith.
Yeah, I'm this is the first physical activity I've done in, I don't know, a very long time.
I'm picking you up tomorrow. Let's do this. We're going.
I'm talking like real physical. So I'm trying to get in shape, right? I'm trying to get in shape.
Good. You should. That's good for you.
And I realized like as a kid, I could be like 17 years old and eat 3 Big Macs and like not gain any weight and then like cruise through my night at work. No problem.
3 Big Macs?
Yeah. Well, I'm exaggerating. They used to have a deal. It was 2 Big Macs for $2.22 and I would eat that.
You know what? I hear Andrew was telling me like he would wait for the McGriddle. And then like later on, he thinks about like what he ate too, and he was like, I would like wait for the sandwich, whatever of the month was at McDonald's. And later on, I'd be eating like pad thai for like the 4th time that week. But it was all similar stuff, like stuff that if you ate it now, you'd probably like just need a nap immediately. I always ate great. Like my parents were just a hot mess. But one thing that they always did was take us outside, take us to the library, the Brooklyn Public Library, best place on earth. And also they would also like, my mom was not a great cook. I love to cook, but we joked that it was like out of self-defense because my mom wasn't great, but the size of the salad bowl was like massive. So that's what I eat. I didn't have McDonald's or I didn't Kentucky Fried Chicken. There was not really fast food in my life.
That's good. That's good. I like that. Yeah, my parents, we would eat that stuff, but not a lot. You know, we weren't having that every day, and they cooked for us every day. So we had it pretty good.
Who was the cook, your mom or your dad?
Let's see.
There's always one. Who cooked in your family? Like,
you know what? They both did. I'll say this. When we were young, my mom, I think, did the bulk of the cooking because she was around the most. My dad was working late. So my mom, she'd be there for breakfast and most lunches. I cooked a lot too. I kind of took over all the cooking when I was 11 or 12, I think.
Just because you needed to help out?
Yeah. My parents were working like 2 jobs each.
Whoa, that's a lot.
Yeah. We all had to, I had to chip in. Not everyone did. But
yeah.
Look, that's a conversation for another time.
For your sibling.
All right. Well, we're running out of time here. So we have to remind people to pick up Ridiculous and Full of Blood. It's out June 14th on, am I saying this right? Red CRK Recordings?
It's Red Creek, and it's Alexis Sevigny and Johannes. It's their record label, and so we're in it with friends again, and it's kind of awesome because we could kind of be ourselves the whole time. So check this out and do something that scares you every day. That's what we're going to do at Hellfest. So we have like all these shows coming up, and it'll be some of the scariest stuff I've done in a little while, and I do scary stuff. So hopefully it'll work out.
I think it's going to work out.
I hope so.
So you've got some live dates in Europe, including Hellfest. Are we going to be playing over here again anytime soon?
I don't know. I think for this run of shows, run of shows we did like it's all Europe. I'm sure there'll be some US dates. I would love to come back and play. I had I came through with Cult of Luna. That was my last US touring, and it was really nice to be in some of those rooms with I can't say familiar faces because I didn't know them all, but it felt like that, So it was cool to be here and tour. I hope to do it.
Awesome. Well, Julie, I appreciate everything you do. I love the new record, and everyone else is going to love it too. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you for having me and telling me about how you used to cook when you were 12 and how kids are superhero. And you good luck with getting in shape, and just, a little bit at a time, but sticking with it is how you do it, and you can do it. It's going to be good. I can do it. I have to. Yeah, you have to. It'll make your life better. And there you have it. Julie Christmas. I loved that conversation. We got to hear all about Julie and the music that she's doing. I like when just a lot of different talk about different things is mixed in there too. It was interesting hearing about her upbringing, which sounded somewhat similar to mine. Hearing about just the dynamic with her kids and how they're coming to her show, and just all different stuff. It was a great mix of everything. And I really, really love those types of conversations. I mean, look at everything she's done. Ridiculous and Full of Blood. It just came out this past Friday on Red Creek Recordings, and you have to hear it. It's one of my favorite records of the year. And when I say, I'm not saying that about every record, okay? When I say that, it literally means it's on my best records of the year list. I'm keeping a running list of all of my favorite albums I've heard for the entire year to make it easier on myself on the end of the year. And Ridiculous and Full of Blood is on it. Julie is just amazing. Her solo records, the Cult of Luna LP with her on it, you've got to hear that. If you have not heard that, go check that out. But also Made Out of Babies, Battle of Mice. She's done it all. She's done it all. She's doing it all. And I hope I get to catch her live. So thank you so much, Julie, for coming on the show. You know what I liked that she said? She said, do something that scares you every day. That's the way to be. That is the way to be. And that's how I try to live. And that's what I'm doing. So you may have seen the big announcement, my new band, Memory Entry. That is the name. And we are here and we will be playing. We are a 3-piece screamo / noise rock / hardcore band from New York City. Our first show will be opening for This Day Forward. This Day Forward is reuniting. They're playing their first gigs in like 21 years. Their last show was 2003. And they kindly offered to have us open for them for the New York City show at Bowery Ballroom. That's on August 25th, Sunday, August 25th. I can't wait. I'm so excited for that show because On the Might of Princes is playing, Taken is playing, and This Day Forward. So I get to play a great show, and then I get to watch a great show, and then I get to watch my best friends in This Day Forward play for the first time in a lifetime, it feels like. So I'm beyond excited. I really can't wait. And I can't wait for you to hear this band. Our debut EP is coming. It will be released this year. We're working on all the final details right now. So hopefully it will be announced soon. Yeah, this band, we've been jamming for a while. We started to get serious around, I would say last summer. And we were going to demo some songs and just, see what's going on. But the demoing of songs became the actual recording of songs for an actual release. And things started getting serious. So around the time of my last run of shows with the Darling Fire, that was last October, I realized I wasn't going to be able to do both bands anymore. Because the Darling Fire, 3 of them are down south. Myself and the drummer John are up here in New York City, and I just couldn't do both anymore. I didn't have the time to do the podcast and the Darling Fire and this new band, so I decided to stick with this new band. And because, everyone lives here, it's a little easier to manage with my time and everything going on. So I have left the Darling Fire, and I will be focused solely on Memory Entry. But I do thank the Darling Fire for my time in that band because I love the band, I love the people, and I don't think I would be here talking to you now about this if it wasn't for them because, it was a real challenge to learn their set. Their music is so intricate. It was like the 3 most stressful months of my life, learning those songs, getting all the bass down, but we got to go on a great tour with Spotlights. That run of shows we did in October was super fun too, and I wish them all the best with whatever they're doing next, and I hope I see them again. So that's what's going on. Memory Entry is here. We will be playing that show. There will be the debut EP. I'm excited. I'm very excited. What else is going on? Oh, I saw Seosin this past week. They played Webster Hall in New York City. And this is Seosin's first run of shows. This is Seosin's first tour with Cove since 2010 or something like that, which is wild. And they are amazing live, flawless. Everything sounded huge. Everything sounded perfect. Cove sounded perfect. They closed with You're Not Alone, which is the song I wanted to hear the most. I really listened to that song a lot in 2022 when I was having a rough time, and it brought me a lot of comfort. And then I would go through and read all the YouTube comments under the song of different people and their relationship with that song and how it helped them through rough times. And yeah, Seosin, killer gig. If you have the opportunity to go see them, do it. And you know what? Whoever is singing for that band, I'm happy with. I don't get caught up in the Anthony versus Cove thing. And I don't even know if that's a thing anymore. It doesn't seem like it is. It seems like everybody is just chill right now. But I appreciate the material that both guys have done for that band. And I think it's all great. I like it all. So the set that Seosin did, right? It was pretty much spanning their whole career, except that 2016 record that Anthony did with them. They didn't play anything from that. And I didn't think that they would, because I figured maybe that was just an Anthony thing. Maybe there's like understandings spoken about or not about who performs what songs or what. I don't know. But the set was fantastic. The set list was fantastic. And if you have the chance to go see them, do it. So we haven't checked in with the New Scene Community Hour in a minute, but let's do that right now because we've got some new feedback and we've got some new reviews. All right, so we got some feedback on Spotify about the episode with Jacob Bannon. That's episode 230. Max says, great to gain insight into Jacob's current activities and creative output. Amazing episode. Thank you, Max. And Sebastian says, was very cool. Can listen to one of the best singers and writers in the scene of hardcore music. With the knowledge and feelings that Jacob shares with us, I can find motivation. Thank you, Sebastian. Yeah, episode 230 with Jacob Bannon. Easily one of my favorites I've done already. I had waited a long time to speak to Jacob on this show, and I loved it. So here we go. We've got some new Apple Podcast reviews. Now, you know that we are on the push to 300 Apple Podcast and Spotify reviews. Here are some reviews. Ready for this? We've got 5 stars from Christopher Lee. He says 5 stars, but first, let me ask, how are you doing today? I like that. Thank you, Christopher. Trevor says, great podcast, 5 stars. I'm writing this review since Keith is so desperate to get to 300 reviews. But seriously, I've listened to a few episodes now, and this is a great podcast for interviews with interesting guests from subversive musicians. Well produced and always enlightening. I'll be listening to each new episode for the foreseeable future. Thank you, Trevor. I like that. And Pizza Guy 81 says, love it, 5 stars. Keith's a great interviewer, big fan of asking people how they're doing at the start of the conversation. Humanizes the whole thing. Keep on keeping on, buddy. Thank you, Pizza Guy. Thank you, everyone who has submitted a review. Yeah, listen, we're currently at like 218 on Apple Podcasts and 261 or something like that on Spotify. So we just need like 80 people to go in and hit that 5-star button. It's not hard. It doesn't take a long time. Open up your Apple Podcast app, hit the 5-star button. You can write a review in there. If you write a review, I'll read it like I'm doing here during the New Scene Community Hour. And then on Spotify, you just hit those 3 buttons, those 3 dots, and then you can rate the show 5 stars. Very easy to do. Let's get us to 300. We have to. We just have to. And listen, I just want to thank everybody for your support of the show. Everybody who's written to me. If I missed you, I'm sorry. I do get a lot of emails, but I'm trying to get better with reading them all. So I'm catching up on some. And everyone who has sent a nice message, everyone who has reposted us in stories, all the new people we've had come in recently, thank you. Honestly, like when I read emails from people just expressing appreciation or people saying that the show helps them through a tough day or that the show has helped them in some way, that's why I do this. That's why I do this, because sometimes I'm just cranking them out week to week and I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, is anyone listening? Does anyone care? And then I read that nice stuff and I see the reactions from everybody and it makes me really happy. So thank you. Let's keep going. Let's do this. It is Father's Day weekend. So I want to say happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. I will be visiting mine this weekend on Sunday, and that's good. I want to make more time to see my family because, I forget if I think I talked about it on here. My dad had a big cancer scare and he had to have a major operation. And he's okay. He's okay. He lived. And I'm taking this opportunity to just spend more time with my family and have us be closer. Because look, everybody's getting older. You never know what's going to happen. So I'll see my family on Sunday. I think I may have forgot to say Happy Mother's Day when that passed. So happy belated Mother's Day to all the moms out there. Happy Mother's Day to my mom. And my mom's birthday is like 1 week after Mother's Day. So happy birthday, Mom, as well. I hope everybody out there is doing well. I'm doing great. It's summer. Yeah, I just really hope that I don't feel bad this summer again like I did last summer. It might be a seasonal thing for me. I don't know. I'm waiting to see, but for right now, I feel pretty good. I got the window open. I can feel the summer air coming in. It has a certain smell to it that I love. I'm just trying to feel good and have fun and play shows, play a couple shows, just have a good time. Enjoy the nice weather. I'm really just trying not to worry about everything so much and try not to anxiety everything to death. Just try to have some fun because there's plenty to be grateful about right now. And I hope everybody out there is doing well. You know what I've been watching a lot lately? My family used to go to North Wildwood, New Jersey, every summer, and I'm in like a YouTube wormhole of the Wildwood Boardwalk. Right? I like to look at YouTube videos that people took from the Wildwood Boardwalk in the 90s and see all those stores, a lot of which don't exist anymore. Some do. And then I went and looked at like all the old motels that we used to stay in, and I remembered some of them. And you remember Dracula's Castle or Castle Dracula that used to be there on the Wildwood Boardwalk? That place was legendary. Legendary. There's a documentary on YouTube someone made about that. I was watching that. So I'm in a Wildwood YouTube hole here. You know, just the summer reminds me of that, and going to the beach with my family, going to the boardwalk, and it's good memories. It's good memories. I'm sure a lot of you have been there too, because I know we've got a lot of Philadelphia and Northeast listeners. So that's going on. And you know what album I'm listening to a lot? The new One Step Closer. I think this is the album for me right now, and this is the album of the summer for me. I've been thinking a lot about getting older, and listening to those guys makes me feel young again, and it makes me remember the first tours I went on and hanging around This Day Forward and them going on to Circus Survive and things happening and not knowing what the hell to do in life and being young and all that stuff. And this new One Step Closer album, All You Embrace, is like the soundtrack to that for me. So we're going to end the show with a song from that record, which is called Blur My Memory. I'm back next week with a new episode and a new guest, and I'll see you then.